What's going on, guys? Today I'm bringing you a new tier list video. I haven't done one of these in forever, and we're going to be ranking all of the first overall picks of the last 20 years. I've seen some other people do this, figured, I'd give it a shot here. Now, the 5 tiers we're using are Hall of Fame talent, which is the best, then top line contributor, good but not worth the pick, flat out bust, and too soon to judge, which is kind of like, I guess, its own category. Now, I do want to change one thing. I feel like Hall of Fame talent, a top line contributor who has a good career, say 1,000 plus NHL games, would probably end up in the Hall of Fame. So because of that, I'm going to change Hall of Fame talent to generational. I feel like it kind of divides it better. Again, I feel like there's definitely different tiers of players who make the Hall of Fame. Some are, in a league of their own, which is generational. Others are just successful NHL careers. So I like this a bit better. I guess we'll go oldest to newest here. So Rick DiPietro. This one's kind of tough. I mean, first overall pick by the Islanders. He wasn't terrible his whole career, but for first overall pick, I would say he was an average at best, above average goalie. So because of that, I mean, good. Was he ever like a really good? I don't know. I'm going to say he was a bust because for first overall, especially for a goalie, you want better than what he gave you. They definitely could have gotten a goalie similar skill level like out of free agency or even just trade for one pretty easily. The first overall pick wasn't worth it. Like, I'm looking at his stats here on HockeyDB. Only played 320 games, 130 wins, so he won less than half his games. 2.87 goals against. I mean, it's under 3, but still. Save percentage there just over 0.9, 0.902. And then if you go to the 2000 NHL draft, you got Danny Heatley going 2, Marian Gaborik going 3. So yeah, I feel like you can pretty safely say DiPietro was a bust. Kovalchuk here, obviously a very good player, not generational. I mean, right now I would say he's good but not worth the pick, but in his prime, Kovalchuk was definitely a top-line contributor, just a very good shooter. I feel like that's pretty safe to say. I don't think Atlanta, got too bad of a deal there, aside from obviously when he left the team. Rick Nash, I'm thinking pretty similar to Kovalchuk, top-line contributor, wouldn't call him generational. Definitely in his prime was better than good. He's actually the youngest player ever to win the Reece Richard Trophy. I saw that like on an Instagram post or something. If you guys aren't following, by the way, TacTixHD Instagram, and I'll throw the Twitter up as well. So yeah, Rick Nash, I think top-line contributor makes a lot of sense for him. Now, Marc-Andre Fleury, this one's tough. He's better goalie than DiPietro. He's won 3 Stanley Cups now. Again, though, first overall pick goalie, you want somebody that's elite. You want somebody like Carey Price in his prime. You want, a goalie that's really going to carry you, right? So, a top-line contributor, a generational goalie, I don't even know who that is. Dominic Hasek, Martin Brodeur, guys like that. Maybe Price, I don't know. Top-line contributor, for sure be a guy like Price. You could argue maybe Fleury, but I'm leaning towards good but not worth the pick, as I do think the Penguins could have gotten somebody better in 2003. Let's go take a look. Oh yeah, they definitely could have. I just remembered the 2003 draft was the stacked draft. You had Stahl go 2, but if you actually sort here, Getzlaf, Bergeron, Perry, Pavelski was like in the 7th, Parise, Vanek, so Shea Weber, yeah, like Fleury's good, but I don't know, like there's probably a decent goalie who went way later too. Corey Crawford, Jimmy Howard in the 2nd, Lack in the 9th, Elliott in the 9th. I mean, Fleury's got the most games played of all of them. I don't know. Like for me, he's right in between top line and good when you're at the pick. But I'm a pretty big believer that you shouldn't use a first round pick on a goalie. It's just too hard to say at that age which goalies are going to turn out to be good, let alone a first overall pick. So I feel like Fleury definitely fits the good but not worth the pick. As like I said, I don't think you're ever going to see a goalie go first overall again. Basically, because DiPietro was such a bad pick, and Fleury, although it wasn't a bad pick, still, when you look at that draft, they could have done better than Fleury at number 1. Ovechkin, this one's easy, generational. I think for sure will go down as the greatest goal scorer of all time. He's on track to beat Gretzky's goal record. I think even if he doesn't, you'd still say he's a better goal scorer than Gretzky, but I'm thinking Ovechkin, he'll play till he's 45. He'll make sure that he beats that record. That one's too easy. Crosby, again, some people argue he's a top 5 player all time. I think you could maybe make the argument for 5. For sure, he's a top 10 player all time. Obviously, that means he's generational. 3 Stanley Cups. Was the youngest captain ever at one point. I mean, what can you say about him? Gold medal winner, World Cup of Hockey. He had 1 year, like, he won everything. I mean, we're talking about Sidney Crosby. I shouldn't have to explain it too much. Erik Johnson here, now on the Avs, was a St. Louis first overall pick back in 2006. I think he also kind of like Fleury fits the good but not worth the pick. Definitely isn't a bust. Like, he's a solid, decent defenseman. Played on the U.S. Olympic team, but just wasn't worth that first overall pick. I think in the same draft, Jordan Stahl went 2, and then Taze went 3. I don't know about Stahl, but for sure, Taze at 3 was that pick that should have been first overall. Patty Kane, This one's tough. Is Patty Kane generational? You definitely could argue he is. Like, for the past decade, he's been the best American player. 3 Stanley Cups with Chicago. Oh, man. He's, like, right in between top line and generational for me. He is such a good player. I think I'm going to put Patty Kane in generational. I think he just barely makes it, because for me, generational is a, top tier. And I think Patty Kane's probably on the low end of that generational. He is, just such a good skill set. Steven Stamkos now doesn't quite make it, but he's definitely a top-line contributor. I think, when in his prime, before he's getting injured, he was one of, if not the best sniper in the NHL. It was like him and Ovechkin were just such good goal scorers. His one-knee clapper, he's just such a good player. And now with Kucherov, he's kind of like molded into more of a playmaker. If it wasn't for injuries, he could even be generational, so it really sucks. He's just got so many injury problems, but I'm a big fan of Stamkos, so I think top-line contributor for sure is fair for him. John Tavares, I honestly have pretty much equal to Stamkos, I'd say, in terms of skill. Like, they're just both so close to me. It makes sense, 2008 first overall, 2009 first overall. Both had Toronto media thinking they might go to Toronto because they're from there. Stamkos stayed with Tampa. Tavares did make that switch. I think, again, very similar in terms of skill set, so whichever one Stamkos was in, Tavares had to be there as well. Taylor Hall now. For me, I'm a huge Taylor Hall fan, but for being realistic, he's not generational or anything. I think a top-line shooter is also fair for him. In my opinion, top 5 left winger in the NHL. I remember I actually just had this conversation with like Deacon Clapp the other day, and we went through it, and he's definitely a top 5 left winger. You got Marchand above him, you got Ovechkin above him. I think there was like 2 other guys, but Hall would be either 4 or 5. So if you're top 5 in the NHL at your position, you're definitely a top-line shooter. I mean, technically top 30 at your position, and that'd be the case. So Hall fits there for sure. Nugent-Hopkins now. Top-line contributor, I wouldn't say he's a top 30 center, so I think he's good but not worth the pick. Now, having said that, I really don't think the Oilers did too bad with this pick. If you look back at 2011, the draft wasn't great. At number 2, you have Landeskog, who's probably also good but not worth the first overall. Huberdeau, probably a top-line talent. Zibanejad's gotten a lot better the last couple years. Same goes for Couturier. You can even make that argument really for Dougie Hamilton. So, like I was saying, this 2011 draft, Kucherov in the second round, we don't count that, but same with Gaudreau. The guys that are actually supposed to be top picks, they were all kind of in between this good and top-line contributor, section. So I don't really think the Oilers did too bad there. Now, Yakupov, 2012. They should have taken Ryan Murray. He's also going in that flat-out bust category. Probably the biggest bust on here, looking at all the names. As like I mentioned, DiPietro, I'm only putting there because he's a goalie. I don't think he was, a terrible, terrible player, but for a goalie, you definitely could have gotten somebody like him for free, whether it be free agency or a cheap trade. Just wasn't worth first overall. Yakupov, you could even say that more so, and I feel like I don't need to say much more. Everyone knows Yakupov's biggest bust the last decade. Nathan McKinnon here. Now, this one's tough, because McKinnon, the last 3 years, I would say is looking like a generational player, but the 3 years before that, or I guess we're 2020, so the 4 years before that, a couple years he looked like he was just good, but not worth first overall. And then a couple other years, he was looking like a top line. Last 3 years, he's looking like generational. So I guess we'll do recency. What's he looking like right now? We'll say generational. McKinnon is crazy. I've seen some people tweet how they think McKinnon's better than McDavid. That's a little bit too much for me. I'm a huge fan of McKinnon as well, but he's not McDavid. I think top 3 players in the NHL right now are McDavid, McKinnon, and I might still have Crosby at that 3 spot. I just think, Crosby's probably the smartest hockey player in the game, even more so than McDavid. Just his hockey IQ is off the charts. Aaron Ekblad now, local Windsor boy. He's definitely either good or top-line contributor. The thing is, good but not worth the pick. His draft was the Draisaitl draft, so they could have had Draisaitl. Sam Reinhart also be good, not worth the pick. Top-line contributor. Is Ekblad a top-pairing defenseman? He's like a top 4 guy, so he's kind of in between good but not worth the pick and top-line contributor. I guess we'll be a little bit harsh here. We'll say good but not worth the pick. Again, just because you look at, who else was there. Again, I'm kind of torn on this, as like I said, Ekblad's a local guy, but for me, he's kind of right in between these two, so I'll just put him at the good but not worth the pick to be safe. McDavid, this is another obvious one. I just said how I think he's the best player in the NHL. I think, he has the potential to end up being better than Sidney Crosby, who I said could argue as a top 5 player, for sure top 10 ever to play in the NHL, so, McDavid's generational. You really don't need to say much more than that. Austin Matthews, I'm sure a lot of Leafs fans are going to say he's generational. Personally, Ovi's best goal scorer of all time. Matthews isn't Crosby. I don't think Matthews is quite Kane, but he's close. And I said how Kane was like the low-end generational, but he's got a much bigger career to go off of. McKinnon, generational recently. McDavid, obviously league of his own. So I think Matthews would be top line contributor with potential to be generational if he can stay healthy. I don't think he's a full NHL season yet, but Matthews definitely can kind of go the McKinnon route where, you know, a couple years ago, McKinnon would have been in the top line contributor spot. Now he's generational. I think the same could happen for Matthews. Nico Hischier here, obviously, only a few years to base it off of, but I think we can pretty safely say he's good, but not with that pick. 2017 was definitely a rougher draft, but Hischier wasn't the pick. Neither was Nolan Patrick at 2. Really, Heiskanen at 3, McCarr at 4, Peterson 5. 3, 4, and 5 are all better than 1 and 2. So when you look at it like that, Hischier's good, but I wouldn't say he's worth the first overall. Now Dahlin here, he's only got 2 seasons to go off of. His rookie year was better. I would say it's too soon to judge, but I think Dahlin can end up anywhere in these top 3 tiers. He's definitely not going to be a bust. He's already shown he's too good for that. Worst case scenario, he was good but not worth the pick, which is the same case for Johnson and Ekblad. You're still good guys to have on your team. Safe bet would be he's a top line contributor, a top pairing defenseman, but there's a chance he could be a generational defenseman. I think he definitely has that tool set, has that potential. And then also too, if you add Jack Hughes onto here, I obviously like Dahlin. I would say it's too soon to judge for him. A lot of people think Jack Hughes is already a bust. I mean, 1 season in, he had like 30 points. It's 1 season. Personally, I think Jack Hughes, it's looking like he's gonna end up pretty similar to Hischier, a good player, not worth the pick. But I think he does have the potential to maybe be a top line player. Generational, probably not. But again, it's 1 season. It's too early to tell. But that's it, guys, for my first overall pick rankings. I guess we can take a quick look here at community rankings as well. This guy's got a lot in the Hall of Fame talent, which is kind of why I wanted to make it generational, because a lot of guys make the Hall of Fame if they have, good long careers. So I feel like that was just, too easy. This guy here, too early on Matthews, which I think is pretty fair. A lot of guys top line contributors. That was pretty similar to us, but Yakupov there, the only flat out bust. I just want to kind of take a look at, a few of them here. This one's also pretty similar. Again, I think most people who are reasonable kind of know what's going on. Fleury is Hall of Fame. See, Fleury could make the Hall of Fame, which is why I didn't kind of like that tier, because I still think he fits into good, not worth the pick, but also could end up being a Hall of Fame goalie just because he had, such a long career, 3 Stanley Cups, etc. So yeah, I think, we did that pretty good. I'll let you guys think about, my rankings in the comments section. If you guys haven't yet, please leave a thumbs up on this video. It helps you out immensely. Also, if you aren't subscribed, make sure you do that. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.